Well, good morning, Board of Directors from Gravity Payments. My name is Dan with my colleagues here at Mac, Helen, and Lindsay, and we're from Bolt Consulting. We're very excited to be here today to talk to you about Gravity Payments. You have made so many new changes. It has been positive, mostly, and it's been a huge media message for a lot of people right now. And we want to make sure that you keep that positivity within your internal structures, but definitely going out to external structures as well. So what we want to talk to you about today is this executive summary. So the challenge is, how can Gravity Payments manage the impacts of recent wage changes? Like I've already mentioned, there has been a lot of impacts, a lot of changes in your company, and how can we make sure that that is positive moving forward? The solution is to expand to meet demand and increase employee engagement. And what is this going to impact for your company is a turnover under 8% percentage, improved cash position, and maintain the aggressive growth that is right now what's happening with Gravity Payments to 10 to 15%. So kind of looking into what the current state of your company is. Right now, there is three main current state analyses, which is one, first thing is employees. There's employees that are happy, there's some employees that are not happy. How can we make sure that your employees all around are satisfied with your company so that they do stay long term? Second is capacity. There's a lot of new demand from outside because of your public image, and it's been great. How can we make sure that that public image stays strong and that new customers and that new demand is met correctly? Third is financial. As you already know, there's low cash position right now, and what can you do to make sure that you do have cash in hand for other improvements for your company?
So taking a look, we wanted to take a look at your internal stakeholders. And the first one that we chose to look at was the senior management in your company. So they had no changes to their wage structure when you brought in this change of the minimum flat wage. Then you had your lower ranking employees, and they saw an increased wage coming through with that. And then you had Dan Price as CEO, and he saw his wage decrease dramatically when we brought in this policy. And the impact of these changes on these stakeholders. So for the senior management, it was that you're starting to see a lower investment and motivation coming through, which is lower than what your company needs to be successful. However, on the flip side of that, your lower ranking employees have been really happy with the company, really motivated, and really enjoyed this change. And then for Dan Price, a consideration that came of this from the publicity was that Dan is away from the office quite a bit and is really needing to see the senior management team step up and take some of that leadership because he is doing a lot of media appearances. So the overall key takeaway from this is that we need to motivate the employees at all levels to ensure your company is successful.
So taking a look at the external side of things, as Dan mentioned, this has become quite a spectacle for some of the press. You've had a lot of really positive publicity about this. There have been some potential challenges with this, but overall it has been quite positive, which really has led to an overall increase in customer base. You have had a few small business owners that have felt that they might be taking on some risk with staying with Gravity Payments, but overall, like I mentioned, it has been a positive increase with your customer base, which has led to you having a limited capacity to service these new customers. So basically what this brings us to is that you do need to grow your operations in order to be able to serve these new customers that you've so positively acquired because of the new wage increases.
Taking a look at some of the financial considerations and where we're at the moment, as was stated earlier, you're in a very weak cash position due to the increase in salary that's basically pushing cash out of investable funds. A lot of your profits last year, $2.2 million, were actually used in this investment. And along with this, there's currently a 30% share stakeholder lawsuit whereby the brother of Dan Price is actually in an attempt to basically have his shares purchased out. So basically we will need to come up with the funds necessary in a worst case scenario to cover that contingency. And lastly, again, as was stated earlier on, there is a need to finance expansion in order to cover basically the customers that are slipping through our cracks at the moment. What this all means is we need cash to handle our growth right now.
Perfect. So bringing it all back together, we started with the question of how can Gravity Payments manage the impacts of recent wage changes? The solution that we are going to be telling you today is to definitely expand to meet demand with all the people that are trying to come to your business, and increase that employee engagement so that all around there is happy employees means happy customers. And this is going to work with our strategy called Defying Gravity. As we already mentioned, your company has been doing so well within changes, within a lot of different aspects within the business that you're in currently. There's a lot of things that you've been doing great, but we want to push you more to definitely get that industry-leading market right now. So, kind of briefing of what we told you already. The 3 key takeaways we told you was that cash needed to handle growth that's happening right now. There's capacity issues. There needs to grow operations so that we can definitely accommodate more customers coming into your business. And thirdly, need to motivate employees. So these are the 3 steps that we're going to be taking to guide you through Defying Gravity. First thing is financial. So utilizing the venture capitalists for cash growth so you can actually have some cash in hand to do more investment within internal employees and external. And capacity would be increasing resources and definitely meeting the demand to get more customers into your business. And thirdly, employees. Definitely trying to motivate all staff, because the one very big issue right now is that there are people want to stay or not want to stay. We want to make sure that every individual that is at your company right now and they're coming in definitely want to stay as a long-term employee and really make sure that employee retention is kept high.
So to take you through the first step of this implementation, it's obviously the financial situation, because without cash, we can't start to implement any of these strategies. Overall, we have a company value on the above screen of 100% as a bar, and our 2 goals are to raise cash for growth, and our second goal is to pay out that 30% equity in our lawsuit. So currently that 30% of the lawsuit is taking up a sizable chunk right now, and obviously makes our financial situation even worse than it already is for expansion. What we're proposing is to basically take 20% share buying of preferred shares within our firm, the opportunity for employees to basically take some of their salary money and buy shares at a somewhat discounted rate so that they have a vested interest in the company, which will produce cash for us and start basically taking over some of that 30%. The remainder of which will basically be funded by venture capitalism. So that way, by having a diversity of financing options, we actually really limit our the riskiness of our financing, and we actually cover not only the 30%, but an additional 10% realistic amount to get some cash flows for future investments.
So, taking a look at the second phase, this is how are you going to expand? Right now, there's been a bunch of new customers who have seen and heard about you in the news and have decided that they would like to work with your company. And so you're seeing that you need to expand to meet that capacity, and you have 2 options for how to handle that expansion. The first would be to expand domestically to look into new office space in that area and kind of expand using your current business model. The second option was offshore expansion. So to be able to move to a different location and to have some of your employees working out of there. So taking a look at the implications of both. If you were to stay on the domestic side of things, you are going to be facing higher costs of those wages. However, you are looking at a much easier transition, and you already know the environment. You have employees there who are trained, who know your culture, and who can pass that on. And again, the environment, everything about that is familiar. However, on the offshore side, yes, you are looking at a positive of lower costs. However, the media perception is something you really need to be aware of. You came out with this bold statement of $70,000 minimum salary. And if you turn around and now move to an offshore location and you see you're going to be facing that negative media perception as well, you're going to have to be probably looking at firing local staff who you're bringing on if you're going to be moving some of your operations there. And you're also looking at new regional challenges. This is an environment you're not familiar with, and that's going to bring challenges as well, which is why we recommend that you go forward and find more office space domestically in order to handle that capacity constraint, and we can use the funding that we've acquired through freeing up some of that cash position.
So in our third and final phase, this is really moving from the inside out. Like we said, having happy employees leads to having happy customers. And what we're seeing right now within your company is that there is an imbalance between senior management and lower level employees, where at senior management, there was 50 of them who did not receive a raise of any kind, as they already have a salary that's over $70,000. So 50 of those people received no wage increase at all. And because of that, they are feeling a sense of inequality, although they are making still over that $70,000 minimum wage salary. So what we really want to do with this is we feel that this is very important to be addressed right away, because without your senior management executives, you're going to have a lot more problems happen if these people are leaving your company. And so what we really feel is that they need to be taken at the value that they do provide for your company. So with that, we'd like to propose giving a 10% increase to these people's salaries, although they are already over the $70,000 minimum wage that you've implemented. As well as, like Mac mentioned before, these preferred share purchases as well is something that we really want to use to incentivize these senior staff to be able to, in the long term, increase their motivation and increase the appreciation that they feel as part of a very crucial team that allows your business to operate effectively. And looking secondly to the other kind of side of our employee retention plan, this looks at all of the employees. So senior management, lower level employees, everyone. This is really coming together to kind of build up a culture of engagement, a culture of peer rewards in order to incentivize people to do a great job and to further propel your company forward. So why do we want to do this? Peer motivation is something that's very, very effective. It's not only being able to get that performance review at the end of the year, but it's to be able to work with the people on your team and to know that you can be accountable for them. Employee reward culture is that you are being rewarded for everyday little things, not necessarily like a big plan going through, but it could literally be helping somebody fix something on their computer or whatever that is. And of course, increasing engagement, that's going to be able to give you those happy employees to give you happy customers. So how we're going to do this is we're introducing a new program called the Gravity Everyday Hero Rewards Program. So basically what this will be is an online platform where employees are given a certain amount of points every month that they're able to distribute to other employees for things like I said, helping you out if you don't understand Excel very well. Maybe they'd help you out with that. If you are running late someday and they maybe meet with one of your clients instead of you. Little things that happen every day that are these everyday heroes in order to really encourage this sense of teamwork and this sense of wanting to be at work. So basically how it works is you find someone who did something good for you within your work, and you tell the story of why they deserve however many points that you give them. So for example, you get 1,000 points per month, and maybe I'd give you 10 points for whatever that might be. And basically you accumulate points in order to be able to get prizes. So whether that's entertainment prizes, movie passes, that's retail purchases, that's electronics, anything like that. Really, like I said, to be having this employee peer motivation in order to invest now to increase your retention for later. So it's really culture building, and this is, like I said, upfront investment right now, but this is to ensure that your employees are staying with you long term, as they do feel valued at work by not only senior management, but the rest of their team.
So taking a look at a timeline of how this could be implemented. So starting right away, Monday morning, you would want to look at announcing the preferred share purchase options to your employees, and also start looking at the management wage logistics, how that could be rolled out, and just ensuring that all of those things are taken care of, as they will be a process. And then within the 1 to 3 month window, you would want to be rolling out those senior management wage increases, talking to employees, and really doing those. You want to do them not in a big blanket way, but you want to make sure that's a personalized thing where you're saying, we're doing this because we want you to feel valued and because we value your contribution to this company. And we think that you deserve this for the work you put in. Then you'd also want to be getting that venture capital financing secured and locked down. And you would be locating that new office space. So taking a look, seeing what's out there on the market and what would work for you. And then you would want to be figuring out the logistics for your Everyday Hero program, starting to figure that out, maybe running some trial programs. Then within the 3 to 6 month window, that would be when you would be settling that lawsuit, figuring those logistics out. Unfortunately, that has to happen, but then you're able to move forward. Also then going and making those infrastructure investments, so moving into the new space, getting that set up, and really knowing now you have the capacity to expand. At that point, you also have your Everyday Hero program kind of rolled out along with that. So we're really here, we're able to meet that demand effectively at that point. And then the 6 to 12 months is, the final move into the office. Everybody's there, everything's working, and evaluation, seeing what's going on and if there's anything that could be improved for the next year, and to see how this new structure works. The other thing we wanted to bring your attention to is a budget of the costs for our plan. So the new office infrastructure we budgeted at $500,000 as a cost. Then the Everyday Hero program would be $120,000 a year. Sorry, both of these are annual costs. And the senior management increase would be $100,000. So we're looking at your senior management. You probably have about 10 employees making $100,000 a year. 10% increase would get you to that number, which gives you a total of $720,000 per year as the cost of this plan.
So a few risks that I'd like to be able to talk you through this afternoon is the first risk being low preferred shares purchasing volume. So like I suggested in our financing strategy, how we wanted to tranche our financing strategy first by basically giving the option for employees to buy our shares. Then we'd like to follow that up with the venture capital financing, as I suggested. So with the risk being low purchasing volume, basically being below 10% around of our company equity, at that point we basically try and move to increase our venture capital financing. As I suggested, the increased, the paired financing actually allows for more volatility on both sides, while still basically providing the ability to cover our needs. The second of these risks is the senior management morale. Understandably, with such a massive culture change within your firm that's taken place over the last year, there are inevitably going to be employees who are not going to be able to budge on the new culture. And what we suggest is, if there are people exiting or unmotivated, there would be selective hiring of new management of senior roles. And as was suggested already, you've had people coming from Yahoo who are willing to take an 80% pay decrease in order to move into these senior roles. So they exist, and they are interested in working for your company and being a perfect culture fit for you if our other abilities were not able to sway them into our new practices.
So to sum up everything, I kind of want to bring back to our executive summary. We started with the challenge of how can Gravity Payments manage the impacts of recent wage changes. That is the main key and main challenge for you right now today. The solution that we told you today was to expand to meet that demand of the consumers that are coming into your business, and definitely increase the employee engagement. And how we're going to get there to the impact is with our defined gravity of making sure that you do have that financial impact of having that cash in hand to really make sure that whatever you do next moving forward is there with the venture capitalists and 30% stake. Second is definitely making sure that capacity is met. There's people who want to be part of your company. There's people who want to work for you. There's people who actually want to do business with you. Make sure you capture all these people with a capacity that everyone is happy. And thirdly, with the finance, with the capacity that you have, the thing that you need, the most important, is your employees. The product that you actually do sell is credit card processing, but definitely the biggest thing right now for you to focus on is your employees. They're the ones who are actually talking to the consumers. They're the ones that are in the face of your company, and if they're not happy, the customers that you do end up getting cannot be happy. So definitely focusing on the employees, making sure that the peer-to-peer reward system is in effect, so that when they do come to work, they actually enjoy working for your company, and it's fun to actually make more connections, make more friendships in Gravity Payments. Thank you very much, and we'll open the floor to questions.
Thank you. Let me invite you for 15 minutes Q&A.
Can I start off? I'm just wondering, thank you very much for the presentation, very well, very structured. I'm just interested to know the kind of value propositions that you would make, that the company would make to attract additional revenue streams, to this new model or this execution plans.
For sure. So the value proposition for the consumers that are coming in.
Yes.
Right now, the value proposition right now for the consumers are that they know that you have great product. They already know through media that you have been doing great internally. So the value proposition for the individuals that are coming in is to really make sure that when they do come into your store, it's a very familiar space, familiar atmosphere. It's a very family-like oriented space for these new individuals coming in. They're very familiar with what they've seen in the media, and they're really happy about it because they do have the really positive press release of making sure that they take care of the employees. So that when you are internally taking care of your employees really well, the consumers that are coming in get to see that it's very familiar and very family-oriented business.
Okay, indeed very well organized the presentation. I have two small questions. First one is that you want to introduce this 20% from VC capital. So typically VC wants to have some management control of the company. How do you handle that point?
I think in exchange for about a 20% stake, which is what we're aiming for, we'd be essentially willing to obviously compromise on 1 or 2 seats on our board of directors to give them somewhat a controlling interest, but not a dominating interest within our firm.
Okay. So how if they said they don't want 20%, they want more, like we'll be able to have the dominant control, would you just exit with the idea?
I think if they were looking to basically come into the firm for dominant control, such as over 51%, that would be something that we would have to walk away from the table from, or we would basically try and dilute it down to a number of venture capital firms. So if we were in a very, very negative position, then if we could possibly have it so they might have conflicting interests. But hopefully we would never be in that scenario, but that is an option.
Okay. And second is also related to the financials. Why do you want to give the employees the preferred shares rather than common shares or share options?
So by preferred shares, essentially, share options is more so a salary for shares kind of option is what we were thinking about. And the reason why we didn't choose that process was because it wouldn't actually put cash in our pockets quickly enough. So the idea behind basically being able to buy shares at kind of a somewhat slight discount to what they'd be worth right now. So let's say they could buy it for 80% of what their face value might be for an employee. So there's a bit of value there. It puts cash into our hands a bit quicker. And it also, by the preferred shares side of things, it's more so they have a bit more rights as shareholders if we continue to expand and possibly go public down the road.
So,
Thank you.
so I'm going to probably drill in on a couple of things there. First of all is, so preferred shares, are they going to be through issuing new shares, or are you going to do that through the existing shares?
In terms of like the dilution process involved, we want to dilute the value of the company minimally as possible, understandably.
So
What we're recommending is to slowly essentially tranche new share offerings into employees while we're trying to in the process of settling this lawsuit, because currently the lawsuit is for 30% of the entire firm, which might be negotiable down into a different direction. So what we'll do is essentially
So sorry, you just need to answer. So issue new shares in order to do the
issue new shares
up to 20%.
up to 20%.
Up to 20%. What valuation will you use for that?
In the case, we were actually unfortunately not given a valuation on the
But
company.
How would you value it? Because you have two things, right? You have a 30% lawsuit on one end, you have the VC valuation on the other. How do we value this? What price do you give it to the employees at?
Basically, we would try and give it to the employees at the price that would be in the lawsuit, as opposed to the VC valuation. The VC valuation would be coming afterwards, after the employee share move. And basically, at that point, that's when we would continue with our financing procedure.
Okay. I want to focus a little bit more on the implementation aspects, because you said you're going to announce the management increase of 10% on one day and then phase it in over 3 months. Unfortunately, we don't have the money to actually do that. So how do we actually do that? Where do you fund the 10% management wage increase from?
Yeah, so I think you would see that the management wage increase, you would be announcing that it would be effective to the next salary period, and then we would be hoping to be less cash poor in the future to be able to have that funding, because you do have the potential for a huge amount of growth. You've seen that 75% increase in your customers, which will long-term be contributing to that you will have the ability to fund that. It's just a cash situation. Yes.
Because, actually, I should probably do this package. how many things in your recommendations require money?
Do you want to bring back up
Yeah,
the budget?
now bring that back up. And when do they require the money, and when do we get the money? So you have this money that needs to go out the door. When do we get the money to actually cover this? Because right now we're probably, our finances, our accountants say we're at the break-even point. We have no extra revenue coming in to cover extra costs.
Yeah, so I think you can see from these, so these are items that would cost money, and we're looking at a scenario where we would be able to have that cash coming through to be able to fund for that.
From
But
where?
these, sorry if you'll let me finish, these will be things that will allow us, if we needed to, and we're seeing that there's a delay in getting the lawsuit settled or in getting the shares issued, that we could delay the start of it if we needed to be able to have that cash position in order to be able to finance that in the short term, yeah.
And in terms of where that cash would be coming from, it would be coming from the initial share offering to employees. So you'd have some of their salary basically be pushed back into the firm in terms of cash flow for dilution.
So most of this is going to come from the new share offering that you offer to employees.
Correct. At
Initially,
least the
yeah.
early stages initially.
Where's the rest of it going to come from? What are you going to have in that later stages?
Well, understandably, some of the cash flow that's available to us will be from new revenue growth. So as some of these basically increased businesses, we're bringing on new employees who are able to field more business for us. There is an improvement on cash flow there in the medium term, along with some of the venture capital later on. Essentially, what we're trying to do is just kind of kickstart some of the growth we need in order to basically drive more revenue later on for additional cash flows.
And so the venture capital part of it, again, is that through new share issuance, or how's that going to be handled?
I think at the time, after we were able to basically analyze how much dilution has already taken place in the firm and what the venture capital firms are basically willing to offer, because it remains to be seen what the expectation is from their standpoint as to what the health of our company is. Then we could address whether or not we would either dilute the company or sell them existing shares in order to come up with the necessary funds to cover our costs.
How do you think the dilution would go down in terms of your lawsuit? How would that impact the lawsuit?
The lawsuit needs to be addressed first before venture capital, but in terms of basically shareholders, essentially what we're looking for is we would love to be able to have these individuals within our firm essentially buying up the stake in the lawsuit that's outstanding. So essentially they're buying the shares that would be existing from it, as many as possible before the venture capital firm would buy up the rest with cash.
Okay, so sorry, I'm monopolizing. You want to jump on there and then questions. Preferred shares, new issuance. You also offer the lawsuit shares to the employees to buy out as well?
So this is sorry, I must not have been clear. So the first process would basically be it would be ideal for employees to buy out as many of the shares as possible that are basically jeopardized in the lawsuit. At that point, if there was new shares that needed to be issued for these employees, especially due to demand, that's what we would issue, which would cause a bit of a dilution. And then beyond that point, if there's still more room to recoup, up to that 40% of what our cash needs are, and so that would be the 10% and the 30% lawsuit, then we would basically use venture capital financing for the rest of it.
The cash regarding the lawsuit, well, the shares involved in the lawsuit, where does the cash go?
The shares involved in the lawsuit, it's being reinvested in the company into these strategies.
Who does cash go to?
Oh, sorry, the cash involved with the lawsuit, in terms of the cash being given to Lucas Price, I believe is essentially going back to him.
Yeah. So you can't use that for this, can you? If you sell the shares in the lawsuit to the employees, the cash doesn't go to the company, it goes to Lucas.
But this is why we suggested if we had 40% of our company equity, so there's the 30% of the company equity in our strategy, and we suggested 20 and 20, so it's difficult to estimate, especially in kind of an issuance like this. That would give us additional 10% of company equity for cash for this strategy, along with basically taking care of that 30% and being able to move forward with our strategy.
So basically the question is, have you thought about just negotiating with Lucas Price because he is the brother of Dan Price?
Yeah, so
Yes.
yeah, we definitely made the assumption of a worst case scenario for this, in that wasn't successful. Obviously, that would be the ideal goal, and the best case scenario would be to convey why we made these decisions and see if either that amount could be reduced or if the lawsuit could be dropped. But we did want to make the assumption of a worst case scenario, just in case that was what transpired.
And how about the Heroes program? What if the employees get adapted to it very soon? So how would Graffiti tackle with that?
Sorry, with the Everyday
Heroes
Heroes
program.
program?
Yeah.
If they adapt to it too
Adapt to it
quickly?
Yes. That means to say, isn't it something that Graffiti should do, or any company should do in the first place? Some the staff incentive programs like this.
Yeah,
So-
we definitely think that it is something that that should happen within any company. And of course, there is a way that you can do it on different scales. So let's say if the money isn't coming in right away, there's definitely ways that we think you can get your employees motivated through different ways if this is something that needs to be delayed to the longer term. But like you just mentioned, this is something that happens in many different companies, but it's something that we think needs to be implemented in order to have that equality even between the senior management and lower level employees, where a lower level employee can also reward a senior management partner instead of it always kind of just being the other way around with performance reviews, with salary bonuses, incentives in that way. It's really, like I said, trying to create that all around culture between both the senior management as well as lower level employees.
So for the 10% salary increase, any particular reason why you chose 10, not 5, or 15, or 20?
Generally, we made an assumption on 10% being enough to kind of sustain interest. 5% being what would be kind of a annual reevaluation, kind of a regular increase in salary. Whereas 20, we kind of substantiated would be too much, too high. 10 being a happy medium.
And around growing the operations capacity, sorry, if I missed this, you gave 2 different options in the pros and cons. What was your recommendation then?
Our recommendation for that was to go with a domestic expansion and setting up another office in Seattle. Or more office space in Seattle, sorry.
And how long do you think that would work for in terms of would that consider for the foreseeable future? Do you see that change in a few years' time?
It's definitely something that you'll need to keep tabs on. Like has been mentioned to us, you actually have a whole influx of new employees that want to work for you as well, and it has become crowded. So in the short term, this is something that you'll need to look into to be able to, like we said, serve those customers that are newly coming to you as well. But this is something you'll have to definitely keep on your radar in order to see if you need more space in the future and things like that.
When would you think it would be a good time to consider an offshore strategy?
I think for this, you would want to look at, first of all, kind of the media coverage of your company. I think right now, if you were, would want to see what that interest is, because if you are going to go out and while it's still coverage as this positive publicity for the $70,000 increase, if you went forward and did it then you're going to lose those customers who chose to go with you for that reason because they liked those values. So I think you would want to be evaluating it on that way, and then also to see your space capacity, how many customers you have. Again, if you're in a situation where it seems like it's crowded, you're not able to do it, and looking at those margins, that would be when you would evaluate it. But I think it's important to make sure you don't do something that's going to lose the momentum that you got from this decision that you made. And it wouldn't be worth evaluating it before that.
How do you address the concern that the customer may have because of the pay rise, their costs will increase?
For sure. So the customers, as in the people who are coming to you currently right now,
Yeah.
how do we make sure that they're not? I think the big thing is the communication aspect.
Yeah.
For sure. The communication aspect of why the decision was made in the first place is to make sure that the internal employees are satisfied with the company. So I think the biggest thing that people need to see is communicating why they did that to the consumers that you currently have, so that they are not worrying about potentially having to move to a different business, because that's the biggest thing, is making sure that they are aware that this is happening for internally wise, so that they can be happy at the same time.
Okay, it's 15 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.